Hi, my name is Mark. My background is basically computer science or IT software engineering. Maybe some of you know the Hasse-Plattner Institute in Potsdam. That's where I started to study because I always liked computers and stuff, but I never really liked programming. But since I grew up with the early computers, everybody in my family and friends asked me to fix their stuff, so I kind of got annoyed and thought, okay, computers are nice, but we should somehow work on usability and user experience so everybody is able to use machines themselves. That's why you'll find a lot of user experience suggestions in my presentation. Not long ago, I think 2 months ago, I joined Oelze, and I will talk about basically how we have planned to update our new Android app that's coming out, I think maybe in the next 2 weeks in parallel with iOS 7. Okay, this is a short outline. First I'll start to show what we do at Oelze, and then how we plan the client application, what were our main goals, what are our UX principles. Then I'll show you our old talk about some touch interactions that I found on the Google homepage that are quite useful if you design for mobile devices. And then I have a comparison of our old flow in comparison to our new flow, because we found out that people just wouldn't find the nice features that we offer on our app. And then in the end, I'll basically show what the outcome was of the way we planned our new app. Okay, so this is the key facts of Oelze. We're basically a online radio music company. So it works like radio. You can select from multiple stations, and you have the ability to filter stuff by genre, like rock or pop. And since many people cannot decide on which genre they want to listen to, or they're in a different mood, they also want to use the service to discover music, we also offer a way to look for music by mood. So you can say, I'm happy right now and I want to listen to happy music for some kind. We basically were founded in 2008 in Berlin, and we have a team of, I think, about 10 music experts that are sitting there every day and build new or music stations or update the existing ones. So it's kind of like a very professional way if you want to broaden your horizon of music, because we probably always know the top chart hits and the top singles from albums, but there's also much more to discover, so it's nice to have experts. I think it was in April, we were bought by Panasonic Automotives from North America. That's why a big focus is also on in-car usage of our app. Okay, this is how we started. We basically started with a simple website where you could choose your music, and we later refactored it to HTML5 to be more compliant with current technologies. Yeah, you can basically see the player here, and to customize the stations that you listen to, you can either love a track, then it will be saved and those artists will be played more often. Or if you don't like it, you can ban a track, and then if you ban one artist 5 times, then we'll never bother you again with that artist and just play other stuff. Yeah, if you want, you can share with your friends, obviously, and buy the stuff. So yeah, this is how we started. We had these buttons here. I don't know. I assume nobody will initially understand what those buttons mean. That's why we also had to change our new design. After building the website, we thought, okay, now we have those nice internet-capable radios like Sonos Player or Onkyo in the house, and people don't want to run their computer all the time, so why not support those devices? And it worked quite well. Now we have those smart TVs as well. As I said, we're now owned by Panasonic Automotive, so we have contacts to quite some companies, and if you sometimes rent drive in our cars, you might have already discovered our app. You can connect it to the BMWs or the Minis that are out there. We're also in the Mercedes, and you can also find us on Pioneer radios that are used in car. And we also serve all major mobile operating systems, iOS, Android, of course, Windows Phone 7. As we talked about earlier, not that many people, obviously, so we kind of don't take much care of it. We serve phones and tablets, but you will see later that basically the tablets or the new high-end devices with high resolution basically brought problems to our existing app because it didn't have responsive design. So now when you open the current app, it thinks if you have like a Samsung S4, it is a tablet, and it will show you the tablet UI, which is not working very well on a small device with a high resolution. So that's why we actually started to think about coming up with a new app. Okay, here's like the primary goals that we had in mind when we planned the app. We needed a flexible architecture so we could extend it very easily, because there's like so many more features and things we want to offer in the future, so we have to keep that in mind. Obviously, you always want to save developers cost. That's another problem that you have to face. Although, someone announced the HTML5 workshop next week. I'm a big fan of HTML5, and like my private time, I tried to develop HTML5 website that you could include in iOS and Android apps by just using the web viewer, or you use a framework like my colleague just introduced. So that's kind of a nice idea, but right now we know that Facebook tried that. The performance didn't work out very well, but I believe in the future that should work very fine. We try to consolidate our apps, but there's still different design flows in iOS and Android, so you really have to take that into account, and you cannot develop one thing and then just put it out on multiple platforms. We obviously have so many things to come, so we want to pace up the development. And we have like a core set of features, and the OPO Next clients will have even more features that will come out next year, at the beginning of next year. So we have to plan that still the current stuff works, and also the next stuff will be integrated very easily for new content that we will probably offer very soon. And since Panasonic is like a big company that's not only selling their products under their personal name, it's also very often branded. So we also have to take that into account, that you could exchange the existing UI by just replacing certain elements with the one of the brand that we're going to sell it under. So before we started to plan, we also looked into our statistics, and then we saw, okay, Android Gingerbread, there's like below 2% market share. So we decided, we were actually quite happy that we could drop support, because it's not a significant amount of people, right? And it's always the problem developers are talking about, because when you see to the right, the right column, you see that in general, among music apps, it's still 25%. So that would be, if we had such high numbers, we would still support Gingerbread, but gives you a lot of restrictions, and you want to try to avoid that. So here we come to our design and UX principles. The first maxim was, don't reinvent the wheel. You just don't have a benefit from it. And so we really looked into what the big providers like Google or Apple offered as UI patterns, and we wanted to reuse like as much as we could to save time, and also to enable people to use the app very intuitively. Yeah, and another part was just reuse the design assets that you get from those companies. If you download the SDK, it already comes with so many great graphics that at the end we came up with, I think we counted, and it was like only 10 graphics we needed to get to the designer to change to fit our brand. One point was also to simplify the app, because the current one is quite cluttered and you have so many things that just keep the focus away from you. And since we will add a lot of new features, we needed to find a way to extend the UI in a way that we could easily add them and that it doesn't feel bolted on. And as I said earlier, we don't only produce our own app, but it's also used by Mercedes and Audi and BMW. So we need to enable them to kind of like reproduce the app for their customers by exchanging some graphics and by reusing the existing code that we offer to them. Maybe if you develop an app, you should think of it as a canvas that you can easily repaint once it's necessary. I mean, there's only a small amount of information or UI elements that you have to change to like promote your brand. So here we come to the touch interactions that you can find on the Google page. I think, yeah, there's a link down there. You should just stick to them so you deliver a great user experience to your customers. One that I really like is use color illumination to give feedback for your users, because very often, we press something and we're asking ourselves, did it work? Did I really press it? Do I have to press it again? Usually it slows down the app. So if you give feedback, the person knows that something is happening, that the action actually took place. So that's like a very important place, and especially sometimes, I think Apple has changed it now with iOS 7, you cannot really distinguish buttons anymore. It's just all one flat thing. It's kind of hard for the user to, estimate that, okay, I can press this area. So the next one is, you always want to give the users put him in a position where he knows what state I'm in, because usually we have context-sensitive interfaces where I have to clearly distinguish between which actions are possible, which are disabled, and what can I do basically. And then they also gave like a rule of thumb how big you should design your elements so that people can actually touch them very easy with different thumb sizes. So their suggestion is use 48 dp like elements. It would translate into like almost 1 centimeter, and that's easily to touch for different people. This is also very important for us because our apps are used in the car, and in the car you have a lot of restrictions, right? You have to focus on the street. You shouldn't focus on how can I touch on little buttons that you can hardly touch. That's really one of the most important things for us. And they also suggest that between elements you should have at least 8 dB difference, so you don't accidentally touch on the different element. Maybe you could, there's like something, if we go back here. I mean, right now, here at this pair, there's another button in between, but that would be something that we try to avoid. That someone tries to like a song, but unintentionally touches the ban button, and then he might not be able to revert it. Right now it is actually implemented like this. If you press one button, then you cannot revert your choice, at least not in the player. So that's kind of like a bad idea. So we will change. I mean, there's a list. If you can like go up here into your account, and then you can see the whole list of songs you've banned and songs you loved. But at that moment of time right now, you cannot switch it. So it's kind of a bad idea. So now we come to the current flow. As I said, we have stations. And to choose a radio station, you first select the genre, which would be this button here. And there are those little grayish overlays. You can turn them off and on, but I mean, you don't have to implement such grayish helpers if the UI is clear. That basically shows that this is just a workaround to fix the not so optimal current design. So the flow would be choose a genre first. So you should go with, for example, with rock. And then it would immediately start playing best of rock. But most people don't want to listen to best of rock. They have like more specific wish. So then they would actually have to understand that they have to click this strange round circle to really find their music taste to like more like a subgenre like alternative rock. So that didn't work too well in the past. So we thought, okay, how can we improve that flow? And then we came up with this. This is the screen designed for a Nexus 4, which is actually kind of interesting because I have the Galaxy Nexus, which has a screen resolution of 1280 times 720p, and the UI looks very good on this. But if you have the Nexus 4, which has just 48 pixels and with more, the app is rendered as a tablet app and doesn't work. So when it was designed, nobody was thinking of that high resolution, and now we have the problem that we have to change the UI to be more responsive. So that doesn't happen again. This is actually one of the reasons why we split the development of the app in 2 parts, because it would have taken too long to develop the whole app from scratch. Right now the app contains all SDKs, so it supports Android 2.3, 4.0, 4.1, 4.2. But that's like a huge APK package that you have to download, and you don't want to do that to the user. So now Google supports to upload separate SDKs. So now you can slim down the app by just separating it by SDK version. And to increase our development speed, actually the development is outsourced to a different company. So we told them, okay, we have this bug, this high resolution bug, so why don't you fix the UI first? Because that's what the user sees, right? And that's the main issue. If the UI is bad, then you have a bad user experience and people don't want to use your app. In the end, we will also have to refactor the underlying code, the backend, basically, because the performance of the front end will depend on that. So that will be the next step, but right now we're focusing only on the UI level, and it should be done, I think, in the next 2 weeks. So this is the new design, and we have this, basically these tabs up here, where you can choose from. You can choose your genre, or you can choose your mood. And if you click, for example, where's the same flow, you click on rock, then you will get to this screen where you can select if you have further filters by subgenre, decade, or different other suggestions by our music experts, live radio, etc. Actually, this is an old design because we've already figured out what happened to people that just want to listen to best of rock. It's not possible right now, right? The person that designed it did think of it, but later when we thought about it, it was like, that's not a good thing, because people still want to listen to best of rock. So now we have another item on top which says best of rock. But the idea is pretty clear. It's just look into the database, fetch a list of elements, and then just display them in a list, because generating a list is very simple, right? And it scales very well. So now the flow is pick the genre, pick the subgenre, for example, or say you want to hit the subgenre, and then you can collapse a list of subgenres, and then you would actually start playing. Very simple, very intuitive. You don't have to think, oh, where do I have to go? Where's the other button? What does it mean? Just click, click, click. Very simple, straightforward flow. And as I said earlier, we try to speed up the whole process. That's why we used, like, I say 90% of stock Android elements that come with the SDK. So we would just think about these little tiles for the genres, and we gave them, for example, to the developer and say, okay, why don't you come up with some creative way to design genre icons? So this is basically our existing logo, then redesigned with a couple of colors, and it will become even simpler, just so people don't get confused. So this was one of the elements that we gave her. And this is the now playing screen. So I marked all the elements that needed to be redesigned because they're not part of the SDK. Up here we have this little radio icon because what we offer is radio stations. So now it actually won't be this tower, it will be more like a small radio. And yeah, we will probably change the heart and the band icon to have something more prettier, maybe even a flatter thing, because everything, we used to have gradients and 3D animations, and we're like, okay, look at iOS as well, they have flattened everything, simplified everything, so we want to do the same for our Android as well. And since we're offering radio stations, our licenses are limited, so it's not like Spotify where you can say, oh, I want to listen to this specific song, but you rather say, I want to listen to this station, or I can say, I want to listen to this artist and related artists. So if you could skip unlimitedly, and you probably would somehow, then you could somehow get to the point where you'd actually find the specific artist and the specific song. So we have to avoid this, and that's why we thought, okay, it'd be nice if the person knows how many skips do I have left. Because right now it's like 6 skips an hour. And would be, that's like another UX principle, right? Show the user what's possible, what can he do, and what's left. So that's why we added this label. Okay, that's it for me. If you want to if you want to listen to our songs, you can go to appear.com. You don't have to sign up. You can just choose a genre, hit play. Or just go to facebook.com. I think my colleague Kareem from the marketing will probably publish information about our new upcoming app. As I said, should be within the next 2 weeks. Maybe even earlier if you want to be a beta tester. Then you can sign up and provide valuable feedback on what we can improve. Yeah, that was it.